Lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, what make your presence so? Lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, what make your presence so? Come out to 14 and into 15 and make a presence so. Come out to 14 and into 15 and make a presence so. Lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, what make your presence so? Lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, what make your presence so? I beg money down and a man hold me hand and I make a presence so. I beg money down and a man hold me hand and I make a presence so. Stupid Gary, let your mommy, go marry, go one gold ring, stupid gold ring, stupid lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, what make your presence so? Lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, what make your presence so? This make a present, that make a present, this make a present so. This make a present, that make a present, this make a present so. Lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, what make your presence so? Lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, what make your presence so? He make a present, she make a present, you make a present so. He make a present, she make a present, you make a present more. Lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, what make your present so? Lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, what make your present so? Lily gal, lily gal, lily gal, present so. Stupid Carrie, Carrie, how? Never Joe, never Joe, never Joe. Oh, money never, money never, money never, money never, money never, money. I know what you're conniving. Money, money never, money never, money never, money never, money never, money. You can keep your conniving money. When you've been out for a bum, in a bill tell me money. Now because your money done, you come with conniving money. When you had your pocket full, in a bill tell me money. Now because your money done, you hustle for tell me money. Yes, money never, money never, money, money never, money, money. Now I don't want you conniving money. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. That's all the money that me work for. A 2 pound note and a kill a piece. A 2 pound note and a kill a piece. A 2 pound note and a kill a piece. This is all the money that me work for. I said money never, money never, money, money never, money, money. I don't want you conniving money. Oh, Joseph, for me. Oh, Joseph, for me. Oh, Joseph, for me. Get a piece. 1 bunch green plantain, 1 string quackwari, 1 Jill black pepper. All you can buy with a Gilda piece. Yes, money never, money never, money, money never, money never, money. I don't want you conniving money. When you been up for a pound, and I been tell me money. Now because your money done, you come with conniving money. When you had your pocket full, and I been tell me money. Now because your money done, you hustle for tell me money. I said money never, money never, money, money never, money, money. I don't want you conniving money. Money never, money, money never, money, money. You can keep your conniving money. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, police are come. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, policeman are come.
Sanko licky love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko licky love up on the dam and the gala holla murder.
Police are come and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Sanko kissy love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko kissy love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, police are come. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, policeman are come.
Sanko chase the love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko chase the love up on the dam and the gala holla murder.
Police are come and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Sanko catchy love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko catchy love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, police are come. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, policeman are come.
Sanko squeeze the love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko squeeze the love up on the dam and the gala holla murder.
Police are come and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Sanko left the love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko left the love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Sanko boy,
You better run.
Sanko boy, police are come. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, policeman are come. Sanko,
You better run.
Sanko,
Police are come.
Sanko,
You better run.
Sanko.
Police are come.
See my little brown boy calling for me, calling for me, calling for me. See my little brown boy calling for me, baby want to do. See my little brown boy calling for me, calling for me, calling for me. See my little brown boy calling for me, baby want to do. Oh, he can walk, oh, he can talk, oh, he can run. Till Sammy let me come home. With his stiff standing collar and his tie to multiply, he's a dashy, a dandy young man.
He's a dashy, a dandy young man.
See my little brown boy calling for me, calling for me, calling for me. See my little brown boy calling for me, baby want to do. See my little brown boy calling for me, calling for me, calling for me. See my little brown boy calling for me, baby want to do. Oh, he can walk, oh, he can talk, oh, he can run. Till Sammy let me come home. With his stiff standing collar and his tie to multiply, he's a dashy, a dandy young man. He's a dashy, a dandy young man. He's a dashy, a dandy young man.
Here Auntie Bess, here Auntie Bess, here Auntie Bess, Allah. Here Auntie Bess, here Auntie Bess,
Here Auntie Bess, Allah. Here Auntie Bess, here Auntie Bess, here Auntie Bess, Allah.
here Auntie Bess, here Auntie Bess,
Here Auntie Bess, Allah. Here Auntie Bess, here Auntie Bess, here Auntie Bess, Allah. For the morning cock crow, here Auntie Bess, Allah. I see your gondola. Allah, Eratibes, 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 Allah.
Washa Allah, washa Allah, washa Allah fa.
Yesha Allah, Yesha Allah, Eratibes, Allah.
Washa Allah, washa Allah, washa Allah fa.
Yesha Allah, Yesha Allah, Eratibes, Allah. I feel like a morning star. 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 Eratibes, 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 Allah. Eratibes, 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 Allah. Eratibes, 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 Allah. Eratibes, 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 Allah. Shem, 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 Skyra, Shem, 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 Skyra, Shem, 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 Skyra, oh.
One day, maybe not.
All right, hey, guess what? Good afternoon. Of course, it's Saturday afternoon, and it's this event that's coming up shortly. We're waiting to broadcast it live. In fact, we will do a feed. We're waiting to hear from um, Sherrod Duncan, who's on the ground. Sherrod Duncan is on the ground, and we'll wait. We're waiting so that they can get started, so that we'll able to carry the feed, and you guys can get to see and hear what's happening there in Guyana. And so I just thought that I just hop on for a few minutes, sorry, and to give you guys an update as to what's happening in Guyana. Of course, you know, at this event here, it is the Institute for Action Against Discrimination. And do share the link, Institute for Action Against Discrimination. And we're not going to deal with distractions and all these different things, because you know the PPP, they love to come up with distractions and all manner of things. And so we will remain focused. Thank you. Now, this is what's happening at this moment as we await those folks at the Golden Grove Community Center. At the Golden Grove Community Center, just to give an update about Brother Takuma Ogunzi, he is still in the lockups. He's at Brickdam Police Station. Brother Takuma Ogunzi is at Brickdam Police Station in a filthy cell. He's locked up, locked away in a filthy cell, and the nation seems to be quiet about this persecution, as they have recently with lots of persecutions, political persecutions by the PPP, by the installed PPP regime. People are getting tired of these sort of things. It appears, and by evidence, that only one set of folks are being targeted for the main part. Some people get upset. They say, oh, you know, it's not only African Guyanese are being targeted, others are being targeted too. Well, that is true. Nobody's denying that. But persons of African descent are being targeted as a result of their ethnicity. Story done. Not just because of their political affiliation, but as a result of their ethnicity. And now others are also being targeted, and those others are being targeted mainly as a result, not as a result of their ethnicity, but as a result of their political affiliation. That's it. And somebody's asking here, Miss Casey, where are the protesters for Mr. Ogunzi? I don't know where the protesters are for Mr. Ogunzi, Miss Brenda. I don't know where the protesters are. I can't answer that question. Maybe you have to direct that question maybe to the WPA and to Dr. David Hines and so forth. Where are the protesters? You know, everybody seemed to have gone to sleep again. Nothing is happening. Um, were I to have my way about this, there will be some protest in front of the Brickdam police station. Even if it's one person, even if it's one protester, even if it's somebody beating a drum out there at the Brickdam police station, a drum. Because sometimes when you're in those situations, a little voice outside, and I've been through there, I've been through that dozens of occasions. And sometimes that voice, one voice outside that says, I care. One voice outside of Brickdam Police Station. I want you guys to read between the lines. I'm not going to do any kind of um, dog whistling like Jack Dew and like these Anil and Datadin and them. I don't do dog whistles. Dog whistles for only one set of people, DOGS. I don't do that. And so I'm saying, why not? Putting all political stuff aside, this is not just about politics and maintaining Walter Rodney's legacy. This has nothing to do with that. And with all due respect to the WPA guys and the Walter Rodney's family and so forth, Ogunsi being in the lockups right now has nothing to do with WPA or maintaining Dr. Walter Rodney's legacy. It has to do with political persecution. And all Guyanese should be up against the political persecution of Ogunsi, as we have seen with others. Because those who are supposed to be speaking out are quiet for the most part. And they have been quiet for almost 3 years now. They know who they are. But today, a man sits there unjustly. He sits there unjustly, mind you. I mean, look, people can say whatever they want to say. Of course, whenever they say whatever they want to say, then those who are in office should not just pick that we're going to ignore what Imran Khan says. Ignore him. He said 10 times worse. But we're going to ignore him because of his ethnicity and because he's preaching something that the PPP likes, something that Jagdeo likes, something that Irfan Ali likes, what Imran Khan has been saying. Do all manner of things to persons of African descent. Do all manner of things to them, quote unquote, black men. Do all manner of things. And nothing happens to those individuals. But when a person of African descent decides to speak the truth, they get vexed. It becomes racist. It becomes incitement and excitement and seditious and treasonous and all manner of things. It makes me arrive at this opinion that persons of African descent have no voice in Guyana, that persons of African descent can't speak out about anything. You can't speak out about injustices. You can't be proud of who you are. You can't jump on a mountaintop and say you're proud to be a black man. You're proud to be of African descent. All of those things make you a racist, according to the PPP, right? Others can do the same. Others can be proud of who they are. Our Chinese brothers and sisters are proud of who they are, or Portuguese brothers and sisters, and they say it. Our Indian brothers and sisters are proud every day they say it. Every single day. And it's not a crime. Nobody says that they are racist for that. But you let an African Guyanese, he or she, be proud of who they are. You can't say it. You just got to be quiet. You got to shut up. You can't respond to anything. You can't respond to oppressions. You can't respond to brutality. You can't respond to political persecution. You can't. Others, it is okay for others to respond to what they want to respond to, but not persons of African descent in Guyana. It becomes a crime. They will round you up. These slave catchers in the PPP will round you up, put bangles on you, shackle you, criminalize you, issue wanted bulletins for you. It is okay for them to do all these sort of things, and no one must speak out against them. It is okay for the police force, certain members of the police force, to go out and murder citizens, and people must shut up. People must be quiet. They did it to Boston, or in Boston. A SWAT team walked in like thieves, like murderers in the night, shot and killed Orrin Boston, in front of his wife. Shot and killed him, murdered him. The entire SWAT team should have been charged with murder. But no, one little scapegoat, some lower rank in the SWAT team, they decided to charge with murder or whatever, and they put him on $1 million bail. So he's out on bail. The matter is going to die down, and he's going to be set free whenever. That's all. The matter is going to die down, and he's going to be set free whenever. No one else can speak out. I mean, everyone can speak out, but as long as you're a person of African descent, it seems as though it's a crime. And while I'm still waiting on those guys at Golden Grove Community Center, if you're in Golden Grove, don't dress up and go around by the Golden Grove Market and knock your Guinness and thing. Even if you're going to get your Guinness or you're going to get whatever it is, your little, I know some of you work hard back down, wherever you work, you want a little relaxation. Go at the Golden Grove Community Center. Head down there now and do your little hang in there and at least get to understand what is happening in the country and what is happening to those who are not on the side of this illegitimate, this corrupt, racist PPP regime. Go down there and hear what they're saying. Those of you who are online, you can share the link. Please share it. We're not going to waste our time and address and confront Kit Nascimento for dotishness. Kit Nascimento, who's 100 and something years, came through some ragamuffin times in the UF. You know, when the UF, they were being accused of terrorism with the young brigades within the UF and these sort of things. And we're not going to respond to Kit Nascimento and his nonsense. You see, that is where the distraction comes. That they want us to burn up our energy on a thing of the past, like a Kit Nascimento who's basically just doing his master's bidding. And therefore, you don't expect Kit Nascimento to say anything better or write about anything better, calling people racist and dangerous and all manner. Who could be more dangerous than someone who hangs his mouth wherever there is some nice political soup and nice soup? Who would listen to a Kit Nascimento that you want to waste your time to even run and do a live about Kit Nascimento? Ignore those guys. Conrad, you have a point. Conrad August always seemed to be onto something. He's always not on something. He always seems to be onto something. He says here, Kit is an ungrateful DOG. I wouldn't. And this is where we've got to be careful. Don't get all emotional and all worked up and who has to die and who has to, you know. Let's watch our words. Stay quiet. Even though you wish for something, stay quiet. Don't expose yourself. And that is where the problem lies. Too many of our people love to expose. They love to expose themselves, expose what they're planning. Some of them, every minute, they just go on their Facebook page and they just talk, telegraph their shots. You don't ever telegraph your shots to your enemies because your enemy is going to read right through you. You don't do that. And those who are accustomed doing it, they need to stop. All right, so we're still awaiting the guys at the Golden Grove Community Center. And let's head back over to Ogunsi. Some people are asking why Ogunsi turned himself in on a Friday. Well, one of the things in a struggle in Guyana that those of us who were part of that real struggle on the ground in those really, really brutal days under the PPP, there's one thing that we know for sure. You got to be careful on a Friday, because if they grab you, and they're slave catchers in the PPP, if they grab you on a Friday, you might be lucky if you're out Friday afternoon or Saturday morning. But you go for the haul. The long haul is Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. I'll be surprised if they lose, Brother Ogunsi. But knowing how these bandits are in the regime, these cold-hearted criminals in the PPP regime, they are going to stretch him out. They are going to ensure that he goes out there for the long haul. That is what they are doing. And they are basically heartless individuals. They want to prove a point. Even though there's really nothing, they're going to come up with, like as I was saying to Dr. David Hines this morning, expect, of course, the excitement, as they're claiming, what is it? Hostility Act, the Excite Hostility Act, attempting to excite. And they're going to attempt to charge him with that. And then more likely they may very well charge him with seditious. And if they don't, then they would go for the lower version. Again, the lower version of treason. They're not going to give up so easily. They're hurt. They're bitter. That is how these demonic folks are in the PB. They're hurt and they're bitter. And so they want to set an example to this man, Ogunsi. They want to set that example to prove a point. To prove a point. And of course, it's a distraction, another distraction from the threats that we're hearing, about the U.S. Embassy. I'll touch on that shortly. Now let's deal with this guy and whatever sense that is being made. Says Mark, I don't support the PPP, but I do support a better Guyana, but you guys are very dangerous to Guyana and Guyanese. 1 minute this guy supports us. Next minute he doesn't support us. Next minute we are dangerous. Can you give, assuming that you are not under the influence of whatever, can you, Michael Pereira, whomever you are from Rosal there or Port Morant area, I got to stop by and speak to you in person. Maybe you can explain to me in person or give some examples as to what makes us very dangerous to Guyana and Guyanese. Give some examples, Michael. Don't just come on this program. One day you support us, and next day you don't, without giving any examples. If you can give me 2 examples right now, I will sponsor 2 bottles of rum for you. A bottle of bush rum and a bottle of high wine. Give 2 examples. Don't just come and talk crap off the top of your head, because maybe you want to, 1 minute you want to eat some crumbs on one side, and then you come back on the other side. And make up your mind which side you're on, Michael Pereira. Make up your mind. The people from Rosal and Port Morant, of course, they always make their minds up. But since you're in that area, make your mind up. I'm waiting to see your next comment. Make your mind up. What side you're really there on? Whose side you're really there on? What is it exactly you're talking about? And what is your definition of dangerous? Here it is that we speak the truth, at least right here on 107.1 FM. You're on this show every living day when you're not at the estate doing your little kid estate work. There are some days you support us. You praise Mark. Oh, yep. You knock out of the PPP. But I'm surprised at this statement here. You can put on your cutlass. We can talk. You can put on your glass of bush rum or something. We can talk. It's okay, Michael. You know, it's okay. Or you can tell me we can talk face to face. But here's what Michael is saying here. Mark, I don't support the PPP. Okay, so you said. So you said. Again, so you said. But I do support a better Guyana. Okay, all right. But you guys are very dangerous to. We are exposing the corrupt PPP regime. And I want you guys to pay attention to this guy here. He is becoming dangerous. This Michael Pereira. Now, listen to him. We are dangerous. But you guys are very dangerous to Guyana. Who could be more dangerous to Guyana, Michael Pereira, than the PPP, than Jack Neo, than Irfan Ali? Who could be more dangerous than these guys? You have said it before, unless you're changing your tongue now because you might be getting a little crumbs from some of your friends, them who getting crumbs now too. And you might see this as an opportunity. So one day you come on, you pretend like you support us, and then the next day you come on talking a bunch of crap. I have no patience for crap. None whatsoever. I'm just letting you know ahead of time. All right? I'm just letting you know ahead of time. This is not a show that I am going to sit down and tolerate crap. I just don't. So let this be the last time you're on this show talking crap. Unless you can prove. I'm giving you a chance to come on back and prove what is it that you're talking about. You guys are dangerous for Guyana. We're all part. You might be mixed with a little Portuguese. You're a black guy. You're a black man. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. So don't come with you guys crap. And you know, Michael, when I talk about somebody, I don't talk about them unless I know them. Give my regards to the folks over there at Rose Island, Port Moran side. I'll remove this here until you give some examples. If not, this is certainly the last time you'll be commenting on this show. Go somewhere else. I have no patience for ignoramus, none whatsoever. Again, we are awaiting the program to start over at Golden Grove Community Center. We want to hear what these guys have to say. The Lincoln Lewis will be there. The mayor of Georgetown will be there. Lieutenant Colonel, retired Lieutenant Colonel of the Guyana Defense Force will be there. And Senior Counsel and Member of Parliament, Roysdale Ford, will be there. I did say Lincoln Lewis, right? Veteran trade unionist. Dr. Simpson de Silva will be there as well, along with others. So please ensure. I know. Mr. Peters, good afternoon to you. You know, it's Guyana, right? So we got to be able to it's something that we don't accept here, the lateness, but I don't know what's going on. I decided to come on and talk with you, our audience. And then lo and behold, I run into the first cross, and like the cross disappear. I see cross and gone. Mark, I don't support the PPP, but I do support a better. Okay, look at this. Look at this here. Let me go back and break this down again. And you guys don't. We are not going to allow anybody to come here on our platform in our village, right? In our village. And let me say this to Michael. Michael, I'm not concerned whether you drink rum or whether you drink Gramazone or whatever, or what is it you call it? It's Gramazone and boys used to drink back there. Michael Pereira saying, I don't drink rum yet. Sometimes you're talking the truth, but sometimes you're talking crap. But you can ask JR about me and who is really me. Okay, bro. Who cares about who is really me or you? I'm not concerned about that. But here it is again. Let's go. I don't drink rum. Oh, yeah, right. So you said. Yet. Okay. You haven't drank rum yet. Got you. Sometimes you're talking the truth. Okay. But sometimes you're talking crap. Oh, shucks. Y'all take care of Michael Pereira on this page, man, because we can't allow this sort of 1 minute, this 1 minute. Can you say again, and I'm speaking in English, Michael, can you give me 2 examples of crap that I spoke about? Crap, garbage. And I will either say, yes, you are right, or no, you are wrong. Give 2 examples of crap. By the way, not crop as in like, planting cane crop and so forth. Crap. Give 2 examples, Michael. Otherwise, we're all going to conclude that you may be high under something, some bushweed or something. Right, Michael? So we'll give you a little couple of minutes of fame. I mean, give examples, man. Just give examples. Don't just talk because you might be sitting next to a latrine and whatever is next to you there, Just come on. I mean, I don't mean to embarrass you because, and I don't need to ask JR who you are. I'm not really concerned about who you are. It doesn't really bother me. And that doesn't do me anything that I got to ask JR who you are. I don't really care who you are. Just respond to the question. Give 2 examples of crap. Let's deal with more sensible people. Afraz, how are you doing, man? Glad that you're tuning in. Afraz is saying here, bro, meaning he's addressing Michael and all y'all, when we can have some semi-crappos who's sitting on the fence to come and, they don't even know what they're saying. They're all over the place. Michael probably got 1 and 2 friends who drinking a little soup. All right, so somebody told me that the meeting has started. Thanks, Miss Barrow. I was just about to respond back to this guy here who we will say goodbye to shortly, and y'all bid him farewell as his last time on the because we give him an opportunity to respond. He can't respond. Well, let him go to some other forum and talk garbage. The usual thing. They like to go on other stuff and talk beer crap. All right, so we'll be back with this live event at the Golden Grove Community Center. Please share the link, guys. Michael, share the link, man. Get off the little bush rum you're drinking. Right? Get off the little bush rum and nonsense, and you're all over the place talking dotishness. Make some sense, man. Make some sense.
Na bamboo down, and me see Tyra lay down there, and me ask see Tyra what she do there. See Tyra ice up she penny good wine like a boxing gold. See Tyra move and there, oh see Tyra move and there. See Tyra move and there, oh see Tyra move and there.
Sunday morning I was passing, and me see Tyra lay down there, and me ask see Tyra what she do there. See Tyra ice up she penny good wine like a boxing gold. See Tyra move and
a wakana. And me see Tyra pon the dam. And me
consciousness amongst our young people. We must remind our people of the transgressions today, yesterday. We must stand in solidarity with Brother Takuma. And come Monday, I want to encourage people to get out there when he's going to court. We cannot allow this to happen to our brother. A party, and this is the PPP, the party abuses state power, and they do not measure up to the basic tenets of good governance. And in combating discrimination, I say we must optimize the use of our optical sense and cognitive ability to compare our neighborhood with that of PPP enclaves. We will find grave disparity. Our communities lag in social and economic development. Hopelessness and misery permeates our community. My fellow countrymen and women, descendants of enslaved and indentured. This is designed by the PPP. It's a deliberate attempt to keep us in that state. The PPP does not value their opponents. They do not respect us. They will come into our communities pretending that they care. I want you to know that they are deceiving you. And 6 months from now, I ask of you to do an evaluation of the visit to Victoria, and you tell me, what did you receive? They were in my community. I'm from Belladrum in October. We asked of them to execute 2 significant projects. One has to do with the clearing of the back dam, about 500 acres of land. October, we are in April. They have not delivered anything. Next, another issue we had with them, with the state agency, the Mahaika Bari Agricultural Development Scheme, otherwise called MMA. They would have appropriated some freehold lands at the back of El Dorado and Belgium. We asked government to address the issue, and they have not addressed it. But we cannot continue like this. And these are the very people who claim that they care about everybody. And then we have the mantra that they always chant, one Guyana. One Guyana for one set of people. And I want you to understand that. They hardly deliver anything of substance in certain types of community. And if they did not, 92 to 2015, they did not treat you well. Why? In 2023, you believe that they will treat you well. The more money they get is the more arrogant they get. And they don't value you. Across the communities, our communities, the PPP refers to them as the evil cabal. They prey on the vulnerable. They will come into your community and they try to divide you. And if you're weak, there are few that they will pull out. Give them a $20,000 here and there, and they believe they get the world. You value more than that. You cannot sell your soul for small things. Our ancestors were strong people, I think I recognize right on that board there. This village was bought in 1838 or 48. I cannot recall what I see on that board. I think it's 48. And it tells you that Shortly after being freed, our ancestors were able to acquire things. We developed a system of managing our communities. We are a smart people. We must not be submissive to an oppressive system. And we have to get our young people to understand. Many of our people at the time of the birth, those young adults, they all they know is a PPP, a corrupt party, a corrupt system that they have corrupted our society, our villages. And so our people
Fire makes soul, makes soul. Bamboo fire, what kind of fire? Bamboo fire makes soul, makes soul. Bamboo fire, what kind of fire? Bamboo fire makes soul, makes soul. Bamboo fire, hot, hot fire. Bamboo fire makes soul, he makes soul. Bamboo fire, hot, hot fire. Bamboo fire makes soul, he makes soul. Bamboo fire, bamboo fire makes soul, he makes soul. Bamboo fire, bamboo fire makes soul. So 6 o'clock and the thing not ready. Bamboo fire makes soul, makes soul. 6 o'clock and the thing not ready. Bamboo fire makes soul, makes soul. 6 o'clock and the thing not ready. Bamboo fire makes soul, makes soul. 6 o'clock and the thing not ready. Bamboo fire makes soul, makes soul.
All right, guys, don't panic. You know the usual thing in terms of the internet connection, and you know we're all the way Golden Grove. Doesn't mean that they don't have proper internet connection there, but you know, for the 23 years that the PPP they've been in office, um, they've done a number to Guyana. They've done a number to Guyana. I get you guys. I'm seeing that you guys saying that the activity is froze. Uh, so all right. So we will return. We will return to that broadcast. Um, we will return to that broadcast. Please, we are monitoring everything. We want to ensure that you guys get, but you guys do the other thing too. And you know, look, let me say this. I've noticed some of my friends from the nursing home, Francine and other people have different energy, Francine, different energy, Francine, and my friend, my friend Francine and the other women at the women's nursing home out in Long Island. Good evening to you guys. You have different energy. I see your point with low energy. I see your point, Francine. I get your point. But let's don't go off track. Let's find out what's happening. Let's head back straight over to Golden Grove Community Center.
or I can say I will go away. But I ain't going nowhere. They have to live with me. I ain't going nowhere. I will continue to fight until the system changes, and I can promise you that. And And I want the people in freedom also to understand that. I want NISA that spy on people in these communities and instill fear among the people that they ought to use their intelligence asset in a better manner. We have problems in our western borders. That is where your assets should be deployed, not to spy on people in communities. It is ridiculous. With those words, I will now like to invite to the podium a gentleman that you are very much familiar with, a Bobisham. He's from all over the place, because whenever I move around with Brother Lincoln, wherever we go, everybody seems to know him. And I remember a story. I have a very good friend here, Forbes Blackman from Bachelor Adventure, and I remember he spoke about a police prosecutor who was given evidence, and he said to the magistrate, he said, "My worship, bad by, like human helicopter, wherever you go, everybody know this man." And there's like Lincoln, right? He's not bad, but to use the police inspector word, he's a human helicopter. Anyway, what people know him. And so I asked Brother Lincoln Lewis to come to the podium.
Comrades, I come tonight or this evening to tell you a few things. Let me say, fellow Guyanese, good evening. This happened to be our second meeting of the Institute for Action Against Discrimination. Its acronym is IAAD. What I tell you is the Institute for Action Against Discrimination. And we are happy tonight that we are at Golden Grove, a proud village, bought initially by free slaves in a post-emancipation period. I know for a fact that many of you came from various locations to share this moment with us in unity of purpose and expression of our pain and anguish with the human rights and other abuses of the PPP regime, that the PPP regime meted out to our people. We have to stand up. We have to hold hands. And when I say our people, I mean all Guyanese. We are being hurt and slowly destroyed by the PPP regime. Hungry, thirsty for power and total domination. They don't care the hell about anybody, as long as they get total power, control, and dominate our people. Even as we gather here today, I advise all of our speakers and all Guyanese to awake to the PPP tactics of distraction. Be wise, focus, vocal, and resistant to their attempts to subjugate and enslave us. We fight slavery, our forebears fought slavery, they fought indentureship. We ain't going back there. We cannot have what we call the new enslavers, the new indentured leaders, or the new colonials. We can't have it. We passed the period already, and we're not going back there. We're not going back there. Let me say to you, give no reason or the slightest opportunity, for them to take the spotlight off of the real terrorists among us. Give no reason, don't allow them to take the spotlight off the real terrorists among us. Their covert and overt criminal acts, their oppression, anti-democratic practices, state-sanctioned murders, and police excesses, they fake an uneven development and cookie developers, their friends of notoriety and infamy, and their provocation of violence in this land that will threaten the interests of all. We have to take note in everything that these people do. They are corrupt, and they want to corrupt this society. Let me tell you something. This has become a country where men are convicted and should be in prison, but they walk in the street and nobody touches them. When you reach that stage, you got to understand where you are. You are in a nation that has been corrupted by a few. Today, we accuse the PPP of discrimination. But today, I posit that state discrimination is an act of political violence, and we must see that as political violence. The PPP regime enacts policies that hurt and destroy human resources and the very fabric of our society. They destroy hopes and aspirations of a large segment of our population, and we must challenge these policies and programs that are contrary to the well-being of our Guyanese. We have to fight. We have to stand up. I want to tell you something. I know they're looking. And let me tell you something, and they're taping. I want you to understand. I am relenting. Civil society and international community and others are being called on to take note of what is happening here and come together, speak out, and avert the potential of disruption in our developmental process and harm to our most vulnerable. At this time, comrades, I condemn the treatment meted out to WPA member Tukumo Ngonse, who the police has held over the weekend. I say there must be better means by which Guyanese facing police charges are treated. These are modern times, and our judicial system was put in place systems whereby citizens do not have to be detained longer than is necessary. This must cease. It is time to put in place a 24/7 service. Unnecessary detention in itself is a form of punishment that may be wrong in terms of whether the detainee is found guilty or not. Time for prison reform and time for the PPP to stop using the judicial system to enact political vengeance. They're vindictive. They're vindictive. And let me tell you something. All of them, don't tell me that this one is bad and the other one is good. All of them, what they're doing is protecting their privileged position and class. I raise my voice in a call for Tukumo Ngonse to be freed and not used to send a message to other Guyanese that they are not free to express political opinion. The pettiness of the PPP must stop. We know too well that there are others in society whom the police would dare not even touch, even in instances where murders and other serious crimes occur. They won't touch them. They're untouchables. But they take the damage past the poor, the downtrodden. It is violence. And I say again, it is violence when the government of a country seeks ways and means to detain and imprison citizens on trump-up charges, hiding behind laws to limit freedom of expression. We see this in the recent case of the young citizens charged for terrorism following a protest that left Islington, East Coast, Demerara, heading to Georgetown, that became thwarted and went away as they were attempting to pass through the PPP stronghold of Monrepo. Barra Jaglio said the charge is meant to send a message. Well, I want to tell you something. I am sending a message to him. It is a political, physical, economic, social, psychological violence when a government bulldozes the homestead of our most vulnerable in society, damaging homes, businesses, property, animal and plant life, and shortly after, moving to demolish the Letem office of the main opposition. These people are wicked, vindictive, and we must call it for what it is. These another countless other violent actions of the PPP, such as denying opposition supporters equal economic opportunities, substantial contracts, and benefit of cash transfer, and financial support during disasters are known to all Guyanese. It is the PPP way of saying to opposition supporters that they are in the wrong lane and have no right to freedom of association. They have committed these acts of violence against sections of the labor force, denying them the basic right to collective bargaining. In a land, comrade, in a land of less than 1 million people, this nation has just unveiled a prison house to house over 600 inmates. This act is heralded by the government as achievement. Can you imagine a government building prison and talking that is an achievement? My God, Jesus Christ, oh my God, what is happening here? And they don't see it. They don't see it as something unfortunate. That's my problem. Rather than heralding new prisons as development, we should be developing programs to lift people out of the morass that influence behaviors leading to incarceration. They don't see that. In recent times, a number of wanted bulletins have been issued. This is unprecedented. And we must ask if this is the PPP new strategy to criminalize a section of the population their rights. A growing number of citizens are now being perceived and labeled as terrorists, where the nation will recall the suffering of Mark Anthony Benscott, and Oliver Easton. The former was left to languish in the filthy, overcrowded Camp Street jail and lost 5 years of his freedom and that of one of his children, even as one died as he was incarcerated. These are acts of violence and must be condemned. No one should suffer unduly more than the likely fine or time he will serve. Each must be held innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, not court of public opinion. But the PPP plan is to label African Guyanese as terrorists and place them on the brink of society. Even as they do this, they have no answers to the many complaints of the police taking bribes, being corrupt, and acting as judge and jury. They have little value for human life And we must never forget the scores of bodies gone down in the streets and backlands of Guyana under the Jagdeo regime. The butcher from Unity, rather than taking cows, sheep, and goats, took human beings. Let me tell you something. Rather than using the police to carry out your dastardly act, and causing them to be taking bribes on the street, the first thing they should be looking is to pay them a decent salary that they do not have to make themselves what they are. It is time. They carry home the hog. They eat mutton while the police get nothing. It is violence when they deny many among us the right to work and the right to earn. This type of political and economic violence has been done to many public servants and GCOM workers post-2020 elections. Mind you, those who are so denied have no welfare support to render them financial assistance and may experience problems in meeting their financial obligations. These people don't care. They don't bloody care. Calvin East London is one such who has suffered at the hands of the PPP, who spare no measure in damaging the reputation and integrity of this young African professional in the public domain. East London is placed before the court on trumped-up charges for doing what he was employed to do. The Jagdeo evil has been allowed to swamp this nation. We have moved from death squad, narco militarization, and narco-related murders to wanton discrimination and attempts to destroy black professionals and the black business class. The PPP regime has a historical record of skillfully creating conditions for societal violence and disruption, even to the detriment of their main supporters. They don't care if the groups, Africans and East Indians, clash and many die, blood flow and many die. They don't care hell as long as they eat mutton while we get nothing. No longer must we remain silent in the presence of such abuse and violence against the working class citizens of this country. Civil society, the international community, and others are being called on to take note of what is happening here and come together, speak out, and abort the potential of disruption in the development process and harm to our most vulnerable. We will be Jagdeo's worst nightmare. For we will expose him and the Ali regime and the rights abuse. He and Cabal must never rest in peace once we cannot rest in peace. We must keep them busy. We must keep them on their toes, making them uncomfortable. Enough is enough. The PPP, by its very act, is guilty of political violence and must take responsibility for the rising tension and conflicts in society. We have to create, brothers and sisters, the space and opportunities for frank, honest, and open conversation on the state of affairs in our country. We have to be our brothers and sisters keepers. We have to join hands against a wicked government bent in dividing the people through several discriminatory actions as they threw crumbs to a few to buy silence and quiet complicity. Only a united force can, we as a united force, we can succeed. Let me tell you, this evening, comrades, I take the opportunity to welcome you to our ongoing discussion on PPP discrimination, anti-freedom posturing, as we raise the consciousness of all Guyanese that they are not helpless unless they turn over and give up the fight for basic rights and freedom, and unless they ignore the sufferings of their fellow citizens, thereby further encouraging the abuse of by this government. Comrades, welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's get on.
Thank you, Reverend Lincoln. I would like to, before we move forward, to acknowledge the presence of some distinguished ladies and gentlemen in the crowd. We have Mr. Roysdale Ford, Senior Counsel, Member of Parliament. Mr. Sherrod Duncan, Member of Parliament. His Worship, the Mayor of Georgetown, Marine. Mr. Ricky Ramsaruk, Member of Parliament. Ms. Nima Klubes, Member of Parliament. Ms. Natasha Singh Lewis, Member of Parliament. Ms. Maureen Philadelphia, Member of Parliament. Mr. Ganesh Maipor, he was somewhere here. Okay. And also, across there, we have Dr. Simpson Perry de Silva. He was one of the youngest ministers serving in the government in the 1980s. You know, right. He was the youngest person ever appointed a minister. As Brother Lincoln said, and we have to bear the message, state discrimination is an act of, state discrimination, he said, it's an act of political victimization. And we must work relentlessly to ensure that we see the back of the PPP. We must commit ourselves to that. Our next speaker, he's a defender of the people, especially those folks in Georgetown, the ordinary working people, defenders. And we are very much familiar with him. I don't think a week would pass and we don't hear his worship voice speaking out on issues that are affecting the citizens of Georgetown. He is also a priest, a Hindu priest. At this point, I would like to invite to the podium his worship, the mayor of Georgetown, Fulbright Marine.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Pleasant good evening, everyone. Can't hear you, Alma. Good evening. Good. All of us are very important to our country. Development, wherever we live, it can be in Georgetown, it can be from Region 1 to Region 10. We all play a great role in our country development and our society. But tonight, this evening, my friends, I heard many things the first speaker make mention of, and I want to focus on the policies of discrimination of this government, the PPP government. This thing has nothing to do with Afro-Guyanese alone, Indo-Guyanese, our indigenous people who are suffering as well, who is suffering as well, right? Discrimination is throughout Region 1 to Region 10 of our country. And if you are not a part of the one circle, right? Yeah, the one guy in a circle, you're bound to get nothing. You're bound to get nothing from that one guy in a circle. It's a circle which is developed by the PP administration to capitalize on the resources that we have in our country. And the question asked many times that we have so many resources in this country. Why should Guyanese be struggling every day? Why? Why we have to see single mothers trying to make a life on the road when we have a Ministry of Social Protection and Human Service or to give aid to those single mother and single father? Don't tell you that alone tell you discrimination. Discrimination is not only in the black community. It is there in the Indian community, in the indigenous community. As long you're not a PPP, you're bound to get rejected by the PPP. And I want to bring your attention to the Ministry of Agriculture. A few days ago, he had about 30 to 60 individuals from Buxton. And this is what he gives to them: fork, rakes, gardens, hoes, shovels, cutlasses. This is what the Minister of Agriculture is telling the people in Buxton. This is what you have to do. This is what you have to do to gain a living, to make a living, while you have some of them cutting the cheesecake. While you have some of them cutting the cheesecake at State House and the office of the President. This is what you are giving the people in Buxton. That is discrimination for me. It's an insult. Yes. It's an insult. It's a big insult. And the same ministry recently again awarded a few billion dollars contract. And when Starbuck News carried the photo, you couldn't see any Afro-Guyanese in that photo. That is discrimination for me. I heard the Vice President spoke about we played a card on racism and discrimination, but their policies include discrimination as well, and that is what I want to outline tonight. That is what I want to outline. I give you two already. So all of these things, my dear friends, we must take note of. The ERC recently sworn in, where I know personally And I want to be very clear, leave out the religious leaders. The Hindu, the Muslim, and the Christian, leave them out. But there are 4 individuals who sworn in at the ERC. They're pro-PPP, who is a part of the PYU. I know of. And you have a sitting councillor on the city council representing the People Progressive Party who swore in as an ERC member as well. Councillor Dwayne Adams. Is this democracy? Is this the democracy the PPP administration is preaching to the international community? Is this the democracy they traveled and flew many miles to the United States, Washington, D.C. to tell those people? Is this the democracy they host? The few Congress people came from the United States of America. Is this democracy they're telling them? Well, no, this is not democracy for me. It's all about dictatorship and discrimination in our country. And I hope they're listening to me this evening. I hope I don't see police at my door when I go home. Well, I said it before, I'm fearless. I am fearless. I only fear the Almighty. I'm a human being just like them. The ERC is highly political. And you know, I have no apology to make. It's people like me the ERC will target. People like me. Right? Because you know what they don't want people like me to come out against the camp, against their policy of discrimination. They want to penalize me from north, south, east, and west. Right? They want to penalize me, and you saw what they did to me. Right? That is only the smoke. That is only the smoke. But we will have to face the heat, my dear brothers and sisters, and we have to face it together. We can't clock out of this thing. But leadership is necessary. Weak leadership cannot take us where we want to go. That's right. If we have to march, let us march. If you have to get locked up, all of you can go in the lockup. This thing is not about Ubraj Narang or any MPs here. This organization or this movement, it's about restoring democracy and restoring the resources that we have in this country to be divided equally among us as Guyanese. Discrimination. The vision and project the municipality of Georgetown put forward to this government all was rejected and closed by the PPP. You know why? Because those projects came from a APNU controlled council. So they wouldn't want to execute such because the APNU council will look good. So you know what they did? They rejected it and they closed it down. And then you have people like Dr. Ram Sarup, who is the head of Go Invest, went to the Chronicle paper and say, broken promises by Mayor Ubraj. And well, I respond to him very decently because he has a shallow memory. He don't remember those MOU he signed. Right? So I respond to him decently. I must remind him that those things and meetings he was involved for the redevelopment of the entire Scarborough area, straight down to GBTI Bank. And this is what they will come in your community for the next few weeks to tell you, the Guyanese people, to go out there on LGC, local government election day, to vote for them. But everything that they will come and tell you is for their benefit. It's not for you, the people. It's not for you. So that again is discrimination, where you reject and close projects and vision of a controlled APNU council. Discrimination again. I must also make mention that we must understand that the EID card contract that was signed by this government, it's a dangerous one. Very dangerous one, where the vice president make mention it's a German-based company, 35.4 million US dollars. 35.4 million US dollars contract was signed, and the AG make mention it was signed in closed door because of security reasons. I want to remind you that is discrimination, because they're keeping your business, which is supposed to be related to us, indoor because of their corruption. That is you and me fund. No transparency. And you see, when you come to discrimination, look at the tender board. Look at the contract that issue from the Ministry of Public Works. And you know, one gentleman reached me only 3 days ago in the city, and he said to me, and he's an Afro-Guyanese, listen to this. He said, Mayor, you get a bite of a $2.5 million contract. I said, "By take it. He go help you some way. Don't refuse it." That time he don't take it and he don't the work and so. But here what happened? The next partner who bid is an Indian guy. He get close to $15 million contract, which he now will subcontract to him. That is discrimination for me. And that is what's happening in most of the ministries. We must not be afraid to talk these things. I'm not against my Indian brothers and sisters. I'm not against my Afro-Guyanese. I'm not against the indigenous people. I'm not against any race. But we must stand up what is right. We must stand for justice. And we must stand for the truth, that how the PPP administration is running this country. My good friend recently that get arrested from the WPE, I wanted to know where was the Guyana Police Force when the Vice President was accused of Sue matter. That went under the bridge. Nobody ever heard anything about Uncle Sue. Right? Uncle Sue is Uncle for me, he's a foreigner. Right? He come here and the accusation made on an international broadcast, I think, that meant matter went unsolved, unjustified to the Guyanese people. When the no confidence motion was passed in 2018, the Vice President make mention, was then opposition leader, make mention Guyana wouldn't be a peaceful place. Y'all can remember the statement? Where was the Guyana Police Force? Yes. These are things you must able to remember. When he make mention that Babujan chased them out, what he meant, nobody knows. All of these things, my dear friends, we must never forget. And the same very people will come to us and tell us that they will give us gold and diamond. I don't want gold and diamond. I want equal distribution of our resources. That is what I want. I don't want it must go one region alone, where your supporters are there and they benefit alone. The government should realize that people are getting wiser every day, and they believe that people will continue to believe their lies, their propaganda, that where they will come with a face on the national television and want to say these things to you will work in your interest. We will have e-ID card, which they will use as the electoral system to do e-fraud. Because I saw the vice president was on it. E-agriculture, e-health, e-security. Well, you're telling the people and the e-ID card will be e-fraud too. It may sound stupid, but you better believe me, they will force GCOM when that time reach to accept the e-ID card, and it will be e-fraud. So this government, the PPP administration, use the laws for their convenience. One human rights activist organization speak out against them. The AG said, well, he will go after him. He did so. You want to silence the people who speak against your policy of discrimination and corruption and confusion, and you will bring us to totally destruction. If we don't stand up, my dear Guyanese brothers and sisters, I will close and say, we will continue to suck this out while the one circle Guyana will continue to have sugar in their tea. I thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Obrad. Indeed, a very powerful message, and we must continue to raise our voices against acts of discrimination. We must demand equal and equitable distribution of resources. Let me acknowledge the presence of Miss Amanza Walton this year. And Mr. Ganesh Maikwal is here also, he returned. Okay, we will move ahead with our presentation. And our next speaker is from Enmore. He's a member of the Alliance for Change. He's a member of parliament. And I will not. Sorry. Maybe I called the wrong village. Coban John, sorry. Right, Coban John. Daddy ga to Coban John. I'm not doing too well in singing. Anyhow, because the part I do, I welcome to the podium Mr. Ricky Baxter.
Thank you for the song. And good evening, all, to my brothers and sisters, and to my colleagues, member of parliament. But I did live in Edmore for a period of time, maybe 5 years, so it's okay. I'm well known in Edmore also. Before I start, I wanted to just wish my wife publicly a happy birthday. A woman that stood beside me in and thick during election time and had to hear some very decent word, but she still stood by me in the political arena. I wouldn't want to tell you what she were told, but we're still here and fighting. And to my daughter tomorrow, who will be celebrating her birthday also, a true princess. that will one day take up my challenge that we are here to fight. Colleagues and to citizens of Guyana who are watching us live, Guyana has faced significant challenges in achieving economic and political stability. One of the most pressing issues in Guyana today is the political victimization through economic marginalization. This is a complex issue that requires a nuanced understanding of the country's history, economy, and political system. The roots of political victimization in Guyana can be traced back to the country's colonial past. For centuries, Guyana was a Dutch, then British colony. During this time, the country economy was structured around the production of sugar, rice, and other agricultural commodities. These industries were controlled by a small group of wealthy landowners who used their economic power to maintain political control, which is still happening today. Since gaining independence in the 1966, Guyana struggled to establish a stable political and economic system. Today, we see blatant acts of political victimization and economic marginalization. As a result of these practices, many Guyanese citizens find themselves marginalized from the country's political and economic system. Those who oppose the ruling party, as our brother was saying, were often subject to harassment, intimidations, and even violence. This includes members of ethnic and religious minorities, as well as those who advocate for democratic reform and human rights. Today, political victimization continues to be a major issue in Guyana. The country's government, led by the current administration, the president himself has been accused of using state power to suppress opposition and marginalize certain groups. And that is why we are here today, my friends. And I'm proud to be part of the IAAD that we launched in Region 5, and we will move from region to region, community to community, to ensure that we build this cause, build this fight, and to gain the momentum that we want to ensure that we share the problem that we face in this country. Perhaps the most egregious example of political victimization in Guyana today is the ongoing controversy surrounding the country's oil industry. And, you know, that is not news for any of us, because many of you are here sitting, don't have an understanding of where that money is going, where the money is spending. You heard that some of my MPs colleagues who are here with us were suspended from Parliament when we tried to protect that spending of that money by protecting and not allowing them to change that act. Today, they have successfully changed the act, and today what we say, there is no accountability of that money, no transparency of that money. In recent years, Guyana has discovered massive oil reserves off its coast, which are expected to generate billions of dollars in revenue. However, they are concerned that the benefit of this wealth will not distribute it equitably. And that is where the problems are. That's why we are here standing telling you exactly how the resources are being distributed. The critics of government argue that the ruling party is using its control over the oil industry to enrich itself and its allies while marginalize those who oppose it. This includes allegations of corrupt contracts, nepotism, preferential treatment for certain groups. I don't know if you recall, right now, the Exxon headquarters, that it was under our government, it was proposed to be around about, I think it was 19 million. Now it's over 50-something million, 60-something million US dollars. Hyperinflation. All these contracts have been hyperinflated. The impact of political victimization through economic marginalization in Guyana is significant, and the Indo community is no exception. And I will tell you how. Those who are marginalized from the political and economic system are often unable to access basic services like healthcare, education, employment. They're also more likely to experience poverty, social exclusions, and discrimination. Furthermore, political victimization can have its chilling effects on democracy and human rights. When opposition is suppressed and marginalized, it becomes more difficult for citizens to express their opinions and participate in political process. And if you notice, the Alliance for Change will not participate in the local government election mainly because of several reasons, like the bloated list and the discrimination practice that's happening in our country. That is when you tend to have discrimination, have a tendency of suppressing people. This can lead to a vicious cycle of repression, where those who are marginalized becomes more disengaged from the political system and are therefore more vulnerable to further victimization. The political victimization through economic marginalization is a major issue in Guyana today. This problem has its roots in the country's colonial past and has been perpetuated by corrupt, repressive government. The impact of this victimization is significant, leading to poverty, exclusion, and the chilling effects on democracy and human rights. It is essential that the government of Guyana takes action to address the issues that we are here calling for, this marginalization. And when you have this discrimination, there will be the derail of the guardrails of democracy. And some of these are like the free and fair election. You know, in the free and fair election, we are now calling for the biometric system to be implemented. They are running from that system. They are now putting, my friend is saying about the EID card, electronic ID card. And I want to tell him, you know, I'm happy that he mentioned, Brother Obraj mentioned it, but the cost that this project is estimated to be is almost half of that when we did the research. Half of that, about $17 million. And we had to, one of my colleagues in part, he had to write it in the newspaper. And you can see his analysis that he did. The Vice President went to Babujan and mentioned about the what you call the legislative branch, that we are not allowing them to appoint the Chief Justice, Roxanne George, and our appellate court judge. And you know, if you look at the press conference, Aubrey had to come out and derail it by telling you that they wrote the letter and they're saying that it's not his job to write the government to tell them who to appoint. But yet they go to the public forum to tell we that we are holding the process up. This is the hypocrisy that these people are peddling to our people. And as my friend says, hypocrites. Oh, it's a parliamentary language, right? And that is what we're going to talk about, separation of powers. They want to control the judicial system. They want to control the executive branch. We are also an executive branch as opposition, and they fail to realize it. They want to control the police systems. As you know, they said a couple here, I heard, but you know, we're not fear. As my brother said, we are fearless. We are here to take a fight forward and to ensure that democracy restored, to ensure that discrimination is fight at all levels. Then you have the freedom of press. You know, a free and independent press is essential to a democratic society. We know my brother Sheriff Duncan was here one time. We had to go to the police station when he was making his press. You know, they were fighting him tooth and nail until he won the battle because it's persistent. And whenever we are in parliament, we're being discriminated. They don't hear our parliamentary speech, so you don't know what we are saying. You can't analyze the good from the bad. And these are some of the suppression when it comes to the freedom of press. And then you have the human rights. You know, I speak about my wife earlier, you know, those are all human rights. Like my brother is facing the same problems when he is as mayor. When you're a Houstonian, you understand me, you have a tendency, Natasha is here with us too, Ganesh, they're all facing this, the belief that the PPP own the rights or have a transport for East Indian people. And that is a very, very troubling ideology that they have. They have no control over us. What we are fighting for, if you look at our political opposition, we are more diverse than any one of them. We don't suppress people. We're diverse. And then you have the corruption. You know, that, my friend, is a major threat to democracy. And has undermined the rule of law and erodes the public trust in government institutions. And in Ghana, there have been repeated allegations of corruption at all levels of government, including embezzlements, kickbacks, and bribery. And these are no news to anyone. I wanted to speak directly to, since the PP come back in government. And I can't really understand, and you people need to understand and to have comprehend from the last 5 years to the 3 years now that you're in government, to see the governance, the superior governance that we left in place, despite the no confidence motion. Despite the no confidence motion, we have stood far beyond what they're doing now. And tell me that is not so. We are far superior than them in terms of governance. And they just see the daylight of us. You see our young ones? Look at our young here. We're gonna fight them to the end. To the end we will fight them. Since the government came back in power, there have been concerns about the party's commitment to supporting the poorest and most marginalized communities, particularly those of East Indian descent. And right, my brother said Enmore, and if you go down to Grassfield, Maureen and I went to Grassfield, you will see the lifestyle. I'm shocked because I grew up there as a young teenager boy in that village. We used to go to the community center. If you go there, you'll see the whole fence is falling apart because we used to have a sports facility to ensure that you take away from idle times. All the sports facilities. If you go to Barbies now, they're going to build a stadium, big one, but they neglect the community level sports facility, which is the one that takes our youth away from idle time. They are missing the concept and the policy that they need to put in place. They are missing it. One of the primary concerns is that the PP has not done enough to address economic disparities that affect many East Indian communities in Guyana. Many East Indians live in rural areas and depend on agriculture for their livelihoods. However, these communities have long been underserved by government policies and may lack access to basic infrastructure such as roads, electricity, clean water. We're talking about clean water. And I wanted to bring water come from the pipe itself. All the tanks on the East Coast, if you look at it, they're red in color. From black, they changed to red. 45 years I'm here, and we can't have a better water system. And this here, they have no intention. All you know, they're building big facilities to purify water. But yet, and I'm trying to tell you this because they are discriminated against the rural communities where they believe in a term called a trickle-down economics system. And we'll be hitting some of those communities and bring you live feed as to the issue, because with the rise cost of living, you can't run from it. It's 3 and 4 times. And the communities are feeling heat. There are persons that in those communities really can afford 2 meals, maybe 1. And I'm not telling you lies. I'm not telling you lies. If you go down to these communities and you visit them, you will see. People are struggling. 2, 3 jobs now, trying to make the ends meet. Everything is a hustle. So it becomes a hustle economy. While we are hustling on the ground, forget our little bits, they're hustling at the top. Big projects, gas shore project. Up to now, there's no feasibility. There's no management plans in place. There's no leak management plan. Because there's a leak, what are they going to do? They are going away all the environmental issues on those projects. They got becomes one of the Skellen, like the Skellen Estate, sugar factory. These are all failed projects. The Amalis Falls is a failed project. They're blaming us for that when the IDB condemned it. Kaicho News was fighting that thing tooth and nail, showing you when the falls fight up. and they come in and blaming the AP and UAFC. You have to try to understand all these fields. No major project PP has embarked in this country, not one. Not a single major project. Now they're going to gas, which I'm very worried about. And it costs us over $2 billion US. They're also concerned about corruptions and nepotism within the PVP government, which may be limiting the ability of East Indian communities to benefit from government programs and services. We have talked about, my friend talked about the distribution of the cash grant. If you are East Indians and you're not a PVP supporter, you will be victimized. And I have evidence. I have evidence. I will share them on my Facebook already, especially when we had the COVID cash grant. It started there. They had the pink slip. A lot of people received the pink slip. Where the pink slip? The farmers, them are complaining to us. We getting calls, we getting calls from Barbies. We getting calls that families and supporters of the people are the major beneficiaries of that money. And that's a fact. Another issue is a lack of representation of East Indian in government and other positions of power. Despite being the largest ethnic group in the country, East Indians are underrepresented in political leadership, the judiciary, and other areas of government. This lack of representation can make it difficult for government to fully understand and address the needs and concerns of East Indian communities. To address these concerns, there needs to be a greater focus on inclusive economic development that benefit all communities in Guyana, including East Indian communities. This can include investments in infrastructure and job creation in rural areas, as well as targeted programs to support small businesses and farmers. It is also important to address corruption and nepotism to ensure that government resources are distributed fairly and equitably. There also needs to be greater representation of East Indians in government and other areas of power. This can include efforts to promote diversity and inclusivity of civil services and the judiciary and other areas of government. It can involve outreach efforts to engage East Indians communities and ensure that their voices are heard and the concerns are addressed. And I'm talking here to those of vulnerable ones. There exist. I know that the African communities are being suppressed, but there's no difference also in East Indians. I will take you, go to Hubu, go to those areas and see the discriminations. Go to a place like Blackbush, you'll see a community. You're not gonna understand the dynamics, what's happening there. And if it wasn't for our government that tried to promote technological advancement, they would not see how grass is green at the other places, or the pasture green on the other side. And that is what our government believes in. In conclusion, there are concerns that East Indian communities in Guyana are not benefiting from the current PP government. This is due to a range of factors, including economic disparities, corruption, the lack of representation in government, and other positions of power. Addressing these issues will require a concentrated effort to promote inclusive economic development, address corruptions and nepotism, and promote diversity and inclusivity in government and other areas of power. By working towards a more equitable and inclusive society, Guyana can ensure that all its citizens, including those from East Indian communities, have access to resources, opportunities they need to thrive. When we are in power, this is what we are going to do. So they're going to come and say that we are talking here about discrimination and we don't have an answer. We have an answer to all that is happening because our policy will be different from what they have. Totally different. They are running chaos because their policies that they are implemented is not have equitable and equal opportunity for all. They're not making the playing field level. Let me put them that way. And that is a problem that we get in the country. That's why they're running from north to south, east to west, and they're heisting the people who are the part-time jobs, I guess, the 10 days people, and scaring them to Babujan. Because the people ain't gonna come out. And they're going scared, my brother. Bear with us, support us. We are gonna move from region to region, community to community, to ensure that we highlight all these issues. Hold your head together, because together we can be better and we will be stronger. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Ricky. Indeed, we need inclusive development if we're going to solve this problem, and we must address the issue of corruption and nepotism. At this point, I want to acknowledge Professor Economist Raul Lucas. Raul, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Raul Lucas. He's one of our distinguished citizens who continue to make tremendous contribution to the development of this country. We're going to move on with our program. Our next presenter is from the village of Victoria. And you know, Victoria is one of the first villages that was bought by our ancestors after the emancipation of slavery. She's a member of parliament and a teacher. And at this point, I would like to invite to the podium Miss Maureen Philadelphia.
I want us to stand and shout out for the men in our midst. It's hardly likely for us to have so many males sitting at meetings.
That's good.
Thank you very much. You may be seated. Good. Because you're not in blue. Thank you, Brother Saul. I want to say good evening to my fellow Guyanese brothers and sisters here at home and beyond, further afield. I am not going to pause to recognize the distinguished brothers and sisters in the midst because that was done before. But I want to say that I am happy to be called and to be a part of this movement so that I can share with this discourse. I am not going to talk to you, but I will talk with you. I stand here not as a politician only, but as a mother, a citizen of Guyana, a professional, and so many other things. And my purpose for being here is because I'm particularly concerned with the continued discrimination and marginalization of our people, which is practiced under the PPPC administration. And here I applaud the IAAD for this bold initiative they have taken in starting this movement so that we can talk with each other, we can share these atrocities, and together we can mobilize and organize so that we can move as a team to take our country back and to do what ought to be done so that all Guyanese will benefit from this oil wealth, or if you want to say oil reserve. Guyana has much to offer, but we continue to see the PPPC's practice where some folks or some areas are treated differently from others, regardless of their political affiliation, their ethnicity, demographics, or if you may share different views of the men and women in the PPPC. And if discrimination was a person, they are all members of the PPPC. I am here representing region number 4. I don't want to stand behind a podium, but I want to put my mic down and talk with you. Forgive me. Because of this. All right. Yes, I am from region number 4, which you know, and I said I will talk with you, but not to you. The Regional Democratic Council of Region number 4 would have requested $36 million in this year 2023 budget. The PPPC government only gave them a paltry sum of $26 million. They're saying to them, without saying to them, we have no time with you, and this is what we're going to do. And that is one, discrimination. Region 4 is the most populated region. And when $26 million was given to region number 4, regions 6, it's not discrimination, then what it is. With them not giving the region that amount of money, the region is hardly likely to provide for its citizens in areas of development. I give you that on a broad brush, but now I will come down to specifics. While coming here, my brother spoke of men on mission, and he said we are men of purpose, and I love that. September 6th last year, the village of Beirut and Dazel housing scheme plagued with natural disaster. You will very well know what I'm talking about. The APNU AFC members of parliament visited that area and highlighted what persons faced there. 5 families lose their homes, lost everything, and they had to be assisted in several ways. Members of the government visited 3 days later, and what did they offer? Some zinc sheets, cleaning detergent, and the promise to return. 6 months, 7 months later, they have not gone back into that community to ensure that the residents of those areas are given the life that they're giving to other persons in other places. I called the men on mission out in my budget presentation this year. But I can tell you this, they have not visited that area. If this is not discrimination, then I don't know what it is. I go to right here in Haslington Grove. We have been calling on the administration to fix the streets and roads in Nabaklis. I refer to that area as the land of the forgotten. There are no proper road, no proper street, no proper infrastructure in that area. We would have asked on several occasions for things to be done in that area, nothing. As a matter of fact, a road in Coven John that housed only 2 families were given priority as against a road in Victoria that over 3,000 persons use on a daily basis. It would have been given priority against roads in the backlist where over 5,000 persons use on a daily basis. It would have been given priority over roads in Pleasance, Buxton, Haslington, Golden Grove, just to name a few of these villages. I spoke just now about demographics and location and how they victimize you and discriminate against you because of where you live. My brother spoke of contracts being awarded to friends, family, and favorites. But I want to say this to you. While contracts are being awarded to friends, family, and favorites in those areas such as Lusignan, Monrepo, Enmore, Enterprise, to name a few, in less than 72 hours, they start crumbling. You know why? Because they are of poor quality. But of course, we talk about discrimination. They care less about the quality you have to offer. All they're concerned about is to enrich themselves. Friends, family, and favorite. Friends, family, and favorite. Last Saturday, the Prime Minister and team visited Victoria, and he was proud to say that we have been doing for all of Guyana. Don't worry with who say we are not doing. Victoria, you benefited. Lies and more lies. 3 budgets under the PPPC. You know what was given to Victoria in this budget? 1 bridge at Moravian Street. Region 4 would have put up in excess of 45 projects. You know how many was selected and find its way into the budget? Only 9. If that is not discrimination, then what is? And I can tell you this, most 99% of them are found in the areas that the PPP perceive not to support the PPP. My colleague is there. We will have dissected the budget together. And so she reminded me just now of what we saw. Monrepo received 3 roads. And while we were crying for Pleasance, Buxton, Ansgrove, Victoria, Golden Grove, Nabaklis, Melanie, just to name a few. I turn my attention now to education because I can't forget that. Yes, Miss Singh Lewis, I'm an educator, and the teacher in me. Last year, $74 billion was awarded for what is referred to or what is called world-class education. This year's budget, $94 billion was awarded to continue that which was started last year. But I know most of you are parents here, and you can speak without a doubt of what is happening in your child and or grandchildren's school. Shortage of textbooks, and not to mention the dilapidated infrastructure. Plumbing, electricity, shortage of furniture, and all of these things. And you know what? Before they fix these things, they're saying to us, Guyanese people, we are going to build 4-lane road instead of investing into human capital so that we can help to build and promote the country. They're investing in those so that persons can see, oh, this is a big structure, Then they're building another stadium in Region 6 and all of these things. Ensure that our school system is fixed. Ensure that our learners are educated in an environment where they are comfortable so that their brain can absorb that which is being provided and given by the teacher. And I'm dealing with education still. We recognize a system where teachers are beaten left, right, and center. And I remember somebody said, you know what is funny? And I think the person is sitting right in our midst. When there's a fire, there's a face. But when teachers are being beaten, you're not seeing that face. And so my brother said, hippocytes. Hippocytes. And all they come to tell us is lies, lies, and more lies. I can call the word, I can say the word, because I'm not in parliament. They try to shut us up in parliament. We are there, not at their invitation, but we were there because you guys elected us, and you elected us to represent you. And so we would have gone there to represent you, and they tried to silence 8 of us because we did what was necessary to represent you at that time. We were all suspended, some for 4 sittings, some for 6 sittings, but tell you what, that did not break us. That did not break us. We stood with you, and we are going to continue to stand with you because we recognize that you are the persons that cause us to be there in the first place, and we have to ensure that we represent you at all costs. We look around and we see so much oppression. And I said, I am not going to talk to you, but I will talk with you, because you are aware of all of those oppression and marginalization of this government. And of course, we didn't have to see the United Nations come to tell us about the human rights issue and human rights violation. We live it, we're in Guyana, and we're seeing it on a daily basis. But what I want to say to you, like I said initially, I applaud IAAD for the initiative, and so that when we are called, we will work together to ensure that we move as a team to see the back of the PPP. We live in a land where a person is judged not by the content of their character, but race, and can be dismissed from their place of employment, not because they aren't qualified and are professionals, but merely because of the physical feature and our assumed political affiliation. The PPPC cares not. Their discriminatory action violates tenets of human decency and rights. They want to ensure that they keep us silent, and as they keep us silent, we will not want to stand against. And so I say to you, let us march together. Let us stand together. Let us fight together. And so we can move Guyana together. I thank you.
Thank you, Sister Maureen. Thank you. I think that's an impressive presentation. Oh, yeah. And you were given many cases of the discriminatory practices of the government across communities. Our next presentation will be done by Dr. Simpson De Silva, and he will be doing a presentation on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 goals. And the objective is for us to see how we can maximize the the use of those goals as we try to build sustainable communities and as we face the discriminatory practices of the current regime. But we must not lose focus. There are things that we can do. And Dr. Simpson will come and tell us what we can do and how we can make our communities sustainable. Dr. Simpson, that's the report.
Thank you very much. All protocol observed, I would like to go straight into the meat of the matter. And I would like to start with the Institute for Action Against Discrimination. And for you to understand clearly that if there is a body of people that have decided to take on the rights of Ghanaians, is the Institute of Action Against Discrimination. It is a human rights body. And I would like you to know that the Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals are the rights of Ghanaians. The Sustainable Development Goals from 1 to 17, starting with no poverty. And I would use Golden Grove because we're in Golden Grove. The people of Golden Grove has the right to prosper. All the people of Golden Grove. And we as a people have a responsibility to educate ourselves, our families, our friends, and all others, and go to the ones who are furthest away, who are most vulnerable, who are most challenged, and bring them in and educate them about their right. So we don't have to ask anyone if we must defend, protect for our rights. The right to food and nutrition security, goal number 2, which is zero hunger. That's a right. It's a universal right. We have the right to have quality food, nutritious food, access to food at any time. It is the responsibility of us and the state to make sure that those rights are met. We don't have to ask anyone if we should stand up for those rights. The right to quality education, which is goal number 3. Matter of fact, good health and well-being, quality education is goal number 4. The goals are all interlinked. A matter of fact, the Sustainable Development Goals, Agenda 2030, and human rights, they are the different sides on the same coin. This is the coin. On this side is human rights. The other side is those 17 goals. And if we were to embrace those goals, and we as citizens, we as teachers, we as elders, have a responsibility to join the Sustainable Development Action Revolution. We don't have to ask anybody if we must wage a war against hunger and poverty. That is get up and fight. I don't have to ask anybody if I must fight for my rights. But what is happening, unfortunately, we oftentimes are our greatest enemy. We need to stop it. We as leaders need to stand up and lead. We need to have the conversation, talk all the time, take action as we speak, and solve problems within our communities. It is our mandate. That is not the mandate of Irfan Ali and Jabir. They are just merely custodian of the resources that we have. But the governance of a community is not just merely the people who are elected to serve there. It is civil society. It is the private sector. It is faith-based organization, part of society. It is the media and academia. It is all. And we have a responsibility to understand that the United Nations has entrusted in us the Agenda 2030 and Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development and the Sustainable Development Goals with 169 targets, 230 indicators for us to use where in our communities. All the people of Golden Grove should have these principles and elements taught to them. We should insist that they are taught in school. We must have sustainable schools, sustainable education, sustainable agriculture. Sustainability must be the essence of our being. It must be sustainable me, sustainable you. And then we must be measuring the extent to which we are performing. The city of Georgetown, the town of New Amsterdam, all the towns should have their sustainability plan being implemented. We are midway of the Agenda 2030 and Sustainable Development and the Low Carbon Development Strategy, which is the vehicle that the government of Ghana is using to achieve the Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals. But when we look around, like what happened yesterday, you saw the president in Region 3. He gave out a tractor to every NEC, tractor and trailer, and yeah, the Minister of Agriculture, as someone said, went to Buxton and he gave shovel and fork. That is not equality. That is discriminatory. But we have the right to speak out. Did we see anybody vocally standing up and speak out to that in Buxton? Buxton should have come out and said, no, that's not what we want. We want just like one is given to the Amerindian, the 200 Amerindian communities. You can't drink the water. You're supposed to have potable water, drinkable water, clean water, and sanitation. We in our communities, when they come and ask what you want, instead of just telling you want football and cricket ground, so no, we want the whole shebang from 1 to 17, because there are 17 goals, and they are our rights. We want our rights. All. Goal number 7, which is affordable and clean energy. We, way back, practiced that. I remember in Republic Park, in 1984, I had a biogas digester, which I used to light the entire house, farm, and cook. right here in Golden Road, President's College, Belbank, all were fueled by clean energy. Currently, Lancaster, where I'm from, many homes, wind charging, solar panels, and so on and so forth. I'm talking about in the 80s. In the homes, also, then by gas station, in that London man area, Lancaster, Liverpool, Manchester. We, as a people, some of us know it, some may not. Our responsibility is each one teach one, so that we can join in the low carbon development strategy. We are low carbon experts. Our low carbon development father was Lindenthorpe Sampson Bonham. The architect of the IOCRAMA was Hugh Desmond Hunt. He is the one who went to the Commonwealth and pledged the gift of 1 million acres of land for conservation, management, and sustainable development of the world. It's a model. But to what extent are we, as a people, knowing that it's our leaders? I was part of that movement. We championed those things. But where are we giving recognition to that fact? Where are we trying to make sure that the people in our community take up the mantle and say to us, let us restart the revolution? The time for that action is now. We don't have to wait until tomorrow. Tomorrow is promised to no one. At least we have 2 or 3 here. And if I were to pull on some spiritual strengths from the ancestors, and some of us used to wear 2 or 3 at Garden, you have enough to cause things to happen. Look how many people we have here tonight. Don't go to sleep. Take massive action. And we can move quickly to decent work and economic growth, which is goal number 8. We must employ ourselves. We must create employment. We must practice what you call zero waste. Convert our production products and vital products into higher value products. Convert all the waste into sustainable development industries. I have at least about 3,000 pieces of this wood that I used to write on, and I have a gallery right now. They're all pieces that were meant to be thrown away, and I picked them up, and I have, from my estimation, close to $1 million worth of collectibles. At least they may be around about you. Comrades, we must waste no time. A lot of us waste time. We must waste no energy. I remember I was school on the Bornum. I produce currently 101 different byproducts from food: sodium powder, sweet sage powder, sweet potato powder or flour, mango leaf powder, cherry leaf powder, all are teeming with superfoods, not killing, including jamon seed powder, jamon leaf powder. All the parts of most of our superfoods are edible. The lotus, water lily, from the root to the shoot, to the leaves, to the flower, all are edible to the nuts. Water lily has pink, yellow, red, white, all those colors. The more colors you have, the more teeming nutrition it is, and it is a superfood. Comrades, I know there are many other folks in the house, and I would like to steal any more time, but to say to us that let us zero in on the sustainable development goals. Climate action, critical to us, which is about the whole climate change. We are stewards of the wetland forest. The wetland forest sequester more carbon than the rainforest. We must apply through conglomerates, for growing more of these trees and getting carbons to be measured so that we can get paid not only for the food, but we can get paid for the carbon credits that we acquire or for the carbon sequestration that occurs. And we, as a people, I recognize that we are far from it. We need to embrace these goals. We need to live the goals. I remember teaching the goals to the students in the primary school in Yarra, in Lenora, in Wales, from primary to nursery and right through to tertiary. They all embrace the goals. Give them plants to plants and they do well. Teach them the fact that you can learn all the sustainable development goals just from a plant. And it's one of the simplest way to do it. So I'm saying to us, let us fight for our school system to embrace the goals, or churches to embrace the goals, or temple, or mosque, or community center. Let the community centers become sustainable community development centers. So they must be active, practicing the principles, taking action, be part of the revolution. And when? Now, equality and non-discrimination. And let us leave no one behind. And let us reach for those who are farthest away and bring them and let them be part of the struggle. And I hope that effective immediately, the Institute Against Action and Discrimination embraces in a very practical, meaningful way the Sustainable Development Goals, Agenda 2030, Low Carbon Development Strategy, 2025 by 2025, which is reducing the import bill in the region because we have a lot of production, sustainable production, so that the people could sustainably consume and be healthy. Let us take up the mantle and do what we have to do in the name of universal human rights. And we in Guyana are entitled to those rights.
Thank you, Dr. Simpson. Yeah, indeed, it was a different goal then. And mind you, sustainable development goals, they're linked to human rights. Let's bear that in mind. At this point, I know we are a bit exhausted. And they say we save the best for the last. And so, without further ado, I invite to the podium Brother Roysdale Ford. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening, my Guyanese brothers and sisters. Good evening, family. Good evening, all to those listening and watching on social media in Canada, United States, in the Caribbean, in Africa, and around the world, and all members of our diaspora. It feels especially good to be in your company this afternoon. And the good Lord says, where two or three are gathered in my name, there also will I be. So this afternoon, we know for sure, this evening, we know very much and very sure that a very special presence is among us, guiding our deliberations, our interactions, and what we are able to achieve as a united people and as a united group. Family, it is my personal prayer that unity, concerns, and commitment that we see here deepen and expand, bringing our people together throughout the length and breadth of every village, this village, from every nook and cranny, from coastlands to hinterland, from Region 1 to Region 10, and even our communities in the diaspora. We know that we are sharing this afternoon the concerns, the issues, the pains, the disappointments of discrimination, recrimination, and oppression that is not unique in any way or limited to any group or any geographical area. You'd have heard our Indian brothers and sisters this afternoon and on previous occasions throughout our country speaking of their reality. Our conversations over our last meeting has made this very clear. We are all victims of some act of government mismanagement or discrimination. We are all exposed to their lawlessness and their vindictiveness, and we are all exposed to seeing rising hunger and poverty, be it within our own family, among our friends, or right before our eyes among our neighbors and nearby villages. It is a shame. Yes, it is a shame. As oil is pumped in this country, there's yet no significant change, no change in the standard of living, which impacts positively on the lives of our people, that impacts on their insecurities of various kinds. We're here this afternoon and all gathered in different parts of this country and on social media because I believe we are no longer prepared to hold a whispering session about those things that affect our sustainable development as a Guyanese family. And since God doesn't like ugliness, we cannot continue to hope and pray that the Irfan Ali government changes and become good stewards of government overnight. We know that some may be suffering more than some, and together we all have to challenge the feelings of pain and of denial which exists among us, and even among the least of us. The suffering of any one of us must be the concern of all of us. And until we genuinely become our neighbor's keeper, then and only then can we effectively combat the excesses, the wrongs, the pillages, the acts of discrimination and oppression that exist among us, irrespective of race. No government, whether a majority Indian government or a majority African government or any group, is bigger than the combined forces of our united Guyanese people. No government headed by anyone must be allowed to marginalize any of us. For we, the people of Guyana, must hold them accountable to higher standards. We must hold them accountable without fear or favor. We are empowered to do so. We must understand and believe that we are empowered to do so. We are empowered to do so because we have put them into power and we have the right to exercise our franchise at an election. The government and the ministers and the occupants of public office must know that by our vote, we can terminate their service there or their service. And we must not be afraid to use it judiciously when the time arises. They must know where the true power lies, and it lies in the people. And they must fear the people. They fear our coming together on issues and love when we fight and remain shrouded by ethnicity that none of us made a choice over or have any control over. They don't want us to elevate above the crab barrel politics, for it keeps us too busy to see that they're making jackasses of all of us. That is why they seek to compromise on each and every possible opportunity our electoral processes in various ways so that they can take the power and keep it away and ultimately keep it away from the people of this country. It's why they keep us divided and it's why they keep us suspicious of each other, allowing us to rely and feel our insecurities, to live and feed lies and hate, which will ultimately divide us. Since our last meeting, comrades, we are learning from our Indian brothers that they feel the pain of our African brothers and sisters, that they see that we're targeted for systematic acts of discrimination and oppression. We're learning too also that they're suffering and facing discrimination and oppression at the hands of this government, albeit not necessarily because of race or ethnicity, but because they are voices of dissent. partnering with African brothers and sisters, partnering with the indigenous people of this country, because they are not serving the interests of the political status quo. Yes, their suffering may be qualitatively different, but they suffer nevertheless. And we must recognize that we have more that connects us than divides us. And we are united more when we achieve more under any government and defeat those within and without our borders. History provides us with countless lessons of the benefits of being a united people. More so when unity is driven by our better angels, driven by higher principles such as integrity, the common good, equality, peace, good governance, and most of all, justice. History teaches all of us that the forces of ill will and on the dark side, driven by desires to oppress, do not last once the oppressed decides that they do not want to be oppressed and decide to rise up. I repeat, the oppressed will always rise up. It's time, family, that the oppressed people in this country, in this republic, rise up. Unless we get it wrong, I mean rise up and exercise your constitutional rights to freedom of expression, the right to speak and write your truths, so that even the deaf and blind among us can hear and see your pain and your suffering. Stand up and speak so that others will learn about your rights and the limitations of government, so that you could help to put them in check, so that you could sit and have civic classes and discussions in your homes and in your communities with your friends, your neighbors, your families. Educate them, educate yourselves, discuss together workable solutions for the common good, so that the mission can be achieved with a singular purpose in our communities. Work together, become active, so that when we can defeat the forces of oppression, hate, and confusion in our midst, our country, our children, and our future can be bright and we could prosper. An oil-rich country like Guyana certainly deserves more, and it can do more, but the government is not prepared to do right by us. And right by us is in respect or notwithstanding the ethnicity that we belong to. That is why we must rise up and act to make them ashamed. And it's not too late for us to stop the slide of the Dutch disease and the Dutch curse, which will engulf this entire country and make it a complete hell. My Guyanese brothers and sisters and families and those on social media watching, we are being exposed living in this country here to a rising cost of living, rising and increasing hunger and poverty in a land of plenty, be it in our own family, among our friends, our neighbors, or nearby villages. The acts of this government are to deliberately promote uneven development. This is not an accidental scheme. This is a deliberate scheme, a deliberate plan. And it's a shame and a disgrace, and we must call it as we see it without fear. An oil-rich country deserves more. And if the government is not prepared to do right by us, we must rise up and act to make them ashamed. The World Bank 2020 fact sheet reports that 48% of this nation, 48%, is living in poverty on less than $5.50 US per day. How can there be such a magnitude of poverty? Almost half of the country's population living in the world's fastest growing oil economy, the fastest growing economy in the world. Instead of a national poverty alleviation program that is inclusive, that is blind to ethnicity, but can only see the suffering of our people, the PPP continues, comrades, to practice partisan politics rendering no significant relief to the citizenry of this country. Our working poor are suffering, especially those whose hands turns the wheels of government, administration, and services. Our public servants, our nurses, our teachers, the policemen and women are continuously denied a living wage in this wonderful oil-rich country that exists only for few. Their pleas and their cries continue to fall on deaf ears. They are denied even the opportunity to engage in collective bargaining, which is a constitutionally protected right. We are constantly reminded that under the PPP government, Guyana has become an animal farm, and some animals are apparently more equal and more privileged than some. How are we expected to feel and react when one village away, every road is resurfaced? Every road is resurfaced in that village, made smooth, all weather. And in bordering villages, the roads and drains can barely serve their originally intended purpose. How are we to feel and to react when one set of children have to navigate roads or pathways that we once called roads, filled with mud and potholes, whereas just on the other side of the road, another set of children in this great land of Guyana can walk in shoes or ride or be driven in comfort. The disparities are becoming more glaring since oil production. As oil is pumped, as our oil is pumped, there are no significant progressive qualitative changes in the standard of living for the average Guyanese person. Our relationships, if not carefully managed, will certainly become explosive as the PPP carefully orchestrates a divided Guyana. Even as we look at the unequal distribution of wealth in our country, we see the neglect of the state security and defense forces. Supportive infrastructure and equipment needed to help our security forces provide basic law enforcement for the promotion of the general welfare of our people, to regulate private rights in the public interest, are not in full supply. Many of our nation's security personnel have become more adept at collecting favors from our citizens and big business than focusing on supplementing the needs and incomes of the ordinary people. As inept as our security services have become rendered, the government continues to misuse the armed services to perform acts that are in violation of their professional oath. Police promotions are compromised, and the government does not fail in its efforts to manipulate those who get promoted and compromise the integrity of these services. Case in point being the efforts currently ongoing, and we would have witnessed in the past under this government since August 2020, to undermine the seniority process and to bypass promoting police officers, but only to promote specific police officers whom they have found favor with. Their vindictive actions against the retired Assistant Commissioner Paul Slow, who was denied promotion and left to languish for 11 years as an Assistant Commissioner after a case where he refused a political order, stands out as a matter of principle and a constant reminder. Even when he was appointed the chairman of the Police Service Commission, once again he became a target because of his integrity and his professional decision-making on matters related to the bypassing of ranks due for eligible promotion. We are all overexposed to all kinds of insecurities of all various kinds and types and colors, many of which we need not to be so understanding what we're going through. What we need is a caring, sensitive, competent government that would have the interests of all its citizens at heart and to protect all of the history of this country. Our national motto, one people, one nation, one destiny, means nothing to them. Absolutely nothing to them. Our national flag and its colors of the golden arrowhead means nothing to them unless it is depicted or draped to show more red than green. Hence, even our sportsmen and sportswomen have been caught up in the struggle for supremacy from color to power. Acknowledging the truth of our history means nothing to them. The ownership of ancestral lands, where evidence suggests, and I quote, an intelligent black man, end of quote, a former slave named Kojo McPherson, the great, 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 great grandfather of Brother Lincoln Lewis, bought land at Kingley for Richard Transport, number 4246, dated the 6th of July, 1851. Let's say it again. Say it with me. For Richard Transport, number 4246, dated the 6th of July, 1851, was issued by the then colonial power. Yet the Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, Anil Nandalal, sought to deceive the nation by saying that no transport exists or was given on that date. The McPherson's clan is perhaps the only African family in Guyana who still has documentary evidence of what we learned in our history books of former slaves purchasing land. Instead of a government demonstrating the concern for our history and getting together with his family to preserve their rich legacy, which is not just their family's legacy, or it's not just African Guyanese legacy, it is the country's legacy. We see none other than Nandalal encouraging his supporters and persons who were once his private clients to engage in acts which can only be described and amount to land grabbing. Brother Lewis and his family knows their family history, and they were able to claim plots that were originally renting and which they now other persons are seeking to obtain by prescriptive title. But the Lewis claims that the contention is that the remaining lands that the McPherson family is trying to protect from the interlopers who are receiving dog whistles from Nandalal amounts to promoting violent confrontations instead of legal redress. This is discrimination and the kind of immoral issues that we must address. This is state bullyism, state violence, and the promotion of violence which we must resist and reject. I say to you this evening, comrades present, brothers and sisters present, and to all of the Guyanese family listening on social media, whether in or out of Guyana, in our diaspora especially, that Kojo McPherson represents each of us, our grandparents, our former slave ancestors, and we who are discriminated by this current violent, wicked regime. All legal and peaceful efforts must be made to help this family and by extension this nation to secure their documented and established tears and blood-written legacy. Today, in similar fashion, comrades, we must stand, and we have no choice to stand with our brother Takuma Gunsi, who is currently in the lockups, having presented himself to a police base on a wanted bulletin issued for him. Now understand me clearly. Let me say this very clearly. Though some of us may not agree with the statements made by him, we must recall that Mr. Gunsi sought to explain, and he did explain what he meant, denying a call for violence or any intent of violence. Notwithstanding that, Irfan Ali, Bara Jagdeo, Anil Nandalal and their group of them is currently holding him where he does not have a chance to leave at least before Monday. We are living in dark times, dangerous times. We live in times to which we would not want our children to grow up in. But we are the adults, and we must stand to ensure that we leave a legacy that is fitting and protective for our children. This government is seeking to curtail our freedoms, not only physically, mentally, psychologically. They're seeking to control our emotions. And by doing so, you control a people. And when you achieve that, you control the right to freedom of expression. And having controlled the aforementioned abilities of a free people, they have no right to express because they have nothing to say. We must give solidarity, comrades and brothers and sisters, to our brother Takuma. And whereas we stand on the side of law, we all stand in support of freedoms as enshrined in all the international conventions and in the laws of Guyana. I must touch on the cases of Justice Janet Cummings Edwards and Roxanne George Wilshire Senior Counsel, both of whom are the acting Chancellor and the acting Chief Justice of this country. And I stand here today, this afternoon, as an attorney at law, as a member of parliament, as an African Guyanese, as a citizen, and as a senior counsel, to tell you that these sisters are being discriminated. They are being discriminated to prevent them being conferred with the office that they're currently acting in, to deny them the right of promotion. The careers of these two African women are stunted, like the lives that we live, that is stunted by the failure to provide proper nutrition to our children. Their intellectual and physical abilities are stunted. The PPP wants to have us stunted, comrades.
That's right.
This must come to an end, and they must be allowed and must be conferred with these higher promotions and opportunities for which they are most eminently qualified. The leader of the opposition dispatched a letter to the government, making it known clearly his agreement for the confirmation of the appointment of these two distinguished women to the substantive positions of these two offices to which they are eminently qualified. No government, whether of a majority Indian or a majority African composition, or any group, is bigger than the combined forces of all of our people.
That's right.
No government headed by anyone, Irfan Ali, Barrett Jack, Ioanni Nalila, Roysdale Ford, Aubrey Norton, have no right and must not be allowed to marginalize any of us. For we, the people of Guyana, must hold them high to high standards and hold them accountable. Half of the problems, maybe more, is simply because the ordinary citizens of this country fail to hold the government accountable. We are empowered to exercise our franchise at ballot, and we must terminate them at the earliest possible opportunity. And the earliest possible opportunity comes in phases. And the most earliest possible opportunity is at the local government election. Whilst we and our supporters have treated local government elections as not important, it is very important. It is very important, especially in the context in which we live. in a rabid, racist, wicked, despotic government. We must use this as an opportunity, as a referendum, as to express our dissatisfaction in the management that the government has of the resources of this country. We must use it as an opportunity to demonstrate our rejection of the efforts to control us and to marginalize and to discriminate. We must not be afraid. Turn up and vote on June 12th. Vote solidly against the PPPC. As the most basic rights of freedom of expression, association, and right to life has even become compromised, the people of this country are becoming now more aware of an emerging draconian state where the rights of the small man and the small woman and everyone who's not connected are being compromised. Comrades, Barajabio has indicated that he wants to take over the strongholds of the People's National Congress reform. But that is political talk. What he's saying basically is that you want to take over your lives. You want to take over your future. He wants to be able to determine how you think. He wants to have you perpetually in a state of subjugation. Now, comrades, both present and listening in and out of this country, the African Guyanese people, after centuries of slavery, within 10 years, and some immediately after emancipation, were able to purchase villages, establish economies, and to lay the foundation for an independent people. No matter how hard life is now, comrades and brothers and sisters, can it match coming out of slavery? And if your ancestors had the intellectual fortitude, the belief in the Almighty God, that they could come out of that system and demonstrate a discipline grounded in sound economics and could buy plantations, you cannot now give that up. You cannot now return to slavery. You cannot now, whilst free, turn to Barajabio, Irfanali, for your sustenance, freedom, and support. So when they want to back you into a corner, by denying you economic resources, by destroying you mentally, that is the foundation for them to come after through the electoral system and say that we have given you a little thing here and a little thing there, and therefore you must now come and vote for them. And I say to you, take their things, understanding that you're entitled to it, and vote against them. We must have no misunderstanding as to what is our obligation. We are not living today because we dropped from a tree. The indentured servants who came to this country, their families, their descendants are living here. They're entitled also to freedom as much as the African Guyanese are entitled to. The Amerindians are entitled to. So we have a choice. We have a choice. All the people of this country have a choice. And the choice is to break free from the bondage of our ancestors and not to return in a manner that will bring tears, sadness, and disappointment to their legacy. Comrades, I'm advised that this institute is gathering information of cases of discrimination. And I urge the citizens of this country, irrespective of race, irrespective of where you live, to participate in this data gathering process, which will be done online, and we will be going into the communities to gather the information. And this is the first step of documenting the injustices and to ensure that when the government changes, you are entitled to compensation. Brothers and sisters, the examples of poor governance and the acts of discrimination are way too numerous to list. What we must do is to understand the challenges and the modus of operandi of those who discriminate against us. We must strategize at every turn, every waking hour, for better governance. We must take our citizenship of this country seriously. Brothers and sisters, are we ready to come together to make this change? If so, let's do it. Thank you very much.
Yes, brothers and sisters, let us unite to break free from the bondage. We must unite. We must unite to free ourselves from this oppressive regime. And remember, come June the 12th, vote in the local government election. Don't stay home. It is important. As mentioned by Brother Ford, it's a referendum on the leadership of the PPP. Indeed, the PPP is very oppressive, and we can't live with them. We must get rid of them if we want to progress. I want to thank you for coming. It's a pleasure. And this is not the last of us. We will be going into Region 3 and Region 2. And of course, we will maintain contact with you. This is a movement. And this is a movement for change and positive change. I would like to invite you to stand as we sing the last stanza of the national anthem. I know Sister Maureen is a good singer, so I want her to come and lead us. No, I'm sorry. Is that, I mean, Neema, is Sister Neema here? Oh, we can do that after, or you want us to do it? Okay, we have some coconut plants to give away. They're 18 months, you know, coconut water is very expensive. And those of you who are interested, we will invite you to come forward to take one of them. This comes from the mayor of Georgetown. And it's from the mayor of Georgetown, right? I think they're able. Right. We want to take some picture, of course, of us handing over them. So in 18 months, you're going to get some cool nuts on that tree. Yes, sir. Yeah.
so, he makes so.
Man come home and the pot not done yet.
Bamboo fire makes so, he makes so.
Man come home and the rice not fire.
Bamboo fire makes so, he makes so.
Man come home and the rice not fire.
Bamboo fire makes so, he makes so. Bamboo fire, hot, hot fire.
Bamboo fire makes so, makes so.
Bamboo fire, hot, hot fire.
Bamboo fire makes so, makes so.
Bamboo fire, hot, hot fire.
Bamboo fire makes so, makes so.
Bamboo fire, hot, hot fire.
Bamboo fire makes so, makes so. Give me the water, the out of the fire.
Bamboo fire makes so, he makes so.
Give me the water, the out of the fire.
Bamboo fire makes so, he makes so.
Give me the water, the out of the fire.
Bamboo fire makes so, he makes so.
Give me the water, the out of the fire.
Bamboo fire makes so, he makes so.
Bamboo, bamboo fire makes so. Bamboo, bamboo fire makes so. Bamboo, bamboo fire makes so. Bamboo, bamboo fire makes so, 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 makes so. Small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good, good time. Neighbor and some little children. I'm in the singing and the dancers really admire them. Small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good, good time. Neighbor and some little children. I'm in the singing and the dancers really admire them. Yes, they're singing. Ching, ching, ching. In a bar. Seafood mama. With 10 fat chickens. And I she for one. And she won't give me one. You see that garden? Named Dorothy. She fat like a butter. And she maggle like a chow. Oh, small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good, good time. Neighbor and some little children.